Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. To be very honest, it's quite stressing to do this video, but I've been through a lot of changes in the past 1 year, and I decided that I actually want to share these experiences with you guys, and want to get your feedback, your questions, any ideas and suggestions. Maybe you can share your own life experiences as well. So that's why I took the courage and wanted to do a Thinking Out Loud series where basically I can talk about everything that I've been going through. As you will find out in the next few minutes, you'll see that last June I quit my job, which was a top job in a very big company in the UK. I decided that I wanted to be more involved into the entrepreneurial things, and I wanted to do something of my own. Also, I wanted to change the place where I was living. I wanted desperately to have more sun in my life because I was living in London, and as you probably know, the weather in London is not the greatest. Yeah, it has its perks, but still I took the decision to move to Bali, and that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. So how did I even think about moving to Bali? Actually, it wasn't a spontaneous thing. I was getting a lot of feed in my Instagram, in my YouTube about the perfect life in Bali, which some parts is true and the other parts is not as true, but we'll discuss it further. And I decided that first of all, I need to ensure that I have a stable income that will guarantee my living somewhere outside without having a job, which is definitely the biggest decision that I took in my life. Trust me, saying no to a stable income that comes every single month on the 26th into your account is definitely not the easiest thing you could go for. But I think the change was so needed that I was ready to go for it. As you have probably noticed in my previous videos, indeed I was working for Shell, which is a pretty big corporate in the world, and it has its benefits for sure. I've had one of the most amazing journeys at Shell. I joined as a intern, passed my internship, and then got a graduate offer to join the graduate scheme in the UK, which is basically the full-time contract after you graduate from the university. So I went back, did my master's, and then came back to Shell, joined the company and worked there for 3 years. I did a couple of roles in Shell, and first I started in supply chain. I did a bit of trading. I learned more about the businesses such as aviation, lubricants, and new energies, mergers and acquisitions. And then one day my manager approached me and told me that there is an interesting project going on, because I was always eager to find out more. If some of my colleagues are currently watching, you know that I was the one who was always trying to get a new thing into my portfolio. I was always pushing for something new, and I was never satisfied with just having one job. So my manager approached me with this new project, which was in digital technologies, and I was super surprised because I've never had any tangency with digitalization. But I was still very interested, and I said, why not? I'll move to the new office, and the new office was in WeWork, which was a really fun place to be at the time. But yeah, anyway, I did a couple of roles in the digital technology space. I really loved it, and after the project ended, I was supposed to move to another thing. I took it. I was promoted to a business development manager. I was also relocated to Rotterdam, where I spent a couple of months working with the team there. But this is not why I'm making this video. At the end, and actually even in the past few months working at Shell, I was still thinking that I want to do something of my own. I started freelancing on the side. I had a couple of really good contracts and clients. I realized that there is a potential in there, opened my LTD, and I started making money by myself, which was awesome at the time because I was doing my own thing. I was choosing my clients and I was choosing my contracts. And that's what triggered my move to Bali. And this was one of the best decisions I ever took in my entire life. So what I want to talk in this video about is how I planned my move to Bali, how were my first days in Bali, did I prepare prior to my move. I didn't know any people when I went there. I've actually never been to Indonesia before. I did a bit of backpacking in Southeast Asia, so I knew what I need to expect from the country, but yeah, it was a pretty new thing for me. I'll also tell you what I was doing there. I'll emphasize on the point that I had some plans for Bali, but nothing out of them actually worked, which is a common thing for Bali because people always say if you go to Bali and you have plans, just erase them because you never need to plan in Bali. Life goes so fast in Bali. You can plan something and then the next day this is going to be something different. You have to always be agile, talking in technical terms. You need to change to the environmental circumstances. You meet 1,000 of new people. If you work in co-working spaces or in cafes, you will probably meet like-minded people, and you'll learn a lot of new things. You might get involved into their projects, or you might pitch your own project and gather a team. So if you plan to move to Bali, don't plan. In my case, I plan to move to Bali to do a technical course, which is a bootcamp. And it's actually a pretty famous bootcamp organized by Levakum, which is a French company, and they have bootcamps everywhere in the world. And of course, Bali was one of the most appealing ones. I applied for the bootcamp, I went through the interviews, I got my offer, and I actually even paid for the deposit. It was about $1,000. But 5 days before I had to leave and I had my ticket ready, I decided that, you know what, I think this bootcamp can wait, because the bootcamps, they are organized once in 3 months, and if I was accepted to this one, I was feeling that, yeah, I'll probably have a chance to get accepted to the next one. So why waste my time being first time in Bali when it was a really intense schedule of about I think it was more than 50-60 hours per week, and this would probably not give me any chance of actually exploring the island and meeting new people outside of the bootcamp. So I decided that I'll drop out even without enrolling, and this was again one of the best decisions I ever took. So after I took this decision, literally 4 days before my flight was taking off from my home country, Moldova, I wrote them an email, told them that I'm planning to drop out. I then got my deposit back, and we ended up in really friendly terms. And I even met the guys in Bali when I was there. So I was ready for new experiences. I packed my suitcase, went to the airport, and I had a really long journey through Dubai, landing in Bali. And of course, don't think that I didn't plan anything. I did a bit. I booked my Airbnb place for about 4 weeks, as I remember. It was a really lovely place in a so-called guest house, which is a very common place for tourists in Bali. So usually you have either a villa or a guest house. It's not very popular for hotels. So the guest house basically is a place where a family has their own small temple, and then they have a few apartments. They're all private, but yeah, they're giving this to the guests. With that in mind, I was ready to start exploring the island. I downloaded the app called Gojek, which is kind of an Uber for Indonesia. Got some cash out of the ATM, ordered my taxi, and I was ready to go. The first thing that really grabbed my attention in Bali After ordering the taxi and asking for some help, also getting the SIM card, was the generosity of the Balinese people, and that's specifically for Balinese people because they are more spiritual and they believe in karma, and they are just so kind and they are always so happy to help. I felt like I'm welcome there, I felt like home, and I was just so excited to go get my moped. At the time I got a very simple Vario 125cc, which is again very cheap to rent in Bali. It's about $50, and it was about 11 p.m. I went to the supermarket, got some food, went back in, opened a beer, and just started enjoying the island. In a way, I was just looking at the views, the palms, and I was just super happy. Same time, I was also very nervous because I didn't know anyone, and I had no idea if the international people are friendly there. But it ended up that everyone, literally every single person, doesn't matter if it's a tourist or an expat, they are on the same line. You will probably find yourself in others. Everyone in Bali is more or less going through a change, or they want to experience something new. They have a new project or a startup, they come there to develop this. So in the first night, even at the supermarket, I met probably more than 5 people, and then most of the people that I met in my first week, they became my best friends for the next 3 months. Why I said 3 months is that people come and go in Bali, which is probably one of the only disadvantages that the island has, because you really start getting attached to the people and then they fly off. So you get used to it, but I would probably suggest for people who are planning to move there for a longer term to get into relationships or with other people that are also expats or also planning to stay for longer, because otherwise you'll have not a very strong bond, and it's just simply hurting when someone is leaving. So I savored my beer, I ate some local food, and I went to sleep. The next morning was just a new world. I was getting to know the islands, the people, the local places. I went to a few lounge bars by the beach, which were very appealing, and I met a few people even from Moldova in my first days, which was super amazing, and it helped me to integrate into the island in a much quicker way. In Bali, you will find people from anywhere in the world. You will definitely find at least one person speaking your language. It doesn't matter where you're from, but overall the mindset of the people is just so amazing that I've met some people that didn't even speak English and we were still getting along very well. What was my plan in Bali? Again, plan, which was adjusting every single second. Was to go to a few co-working spots and grab a place there, see what's the best one for me, and start working there. And I think out of all the plans that I was making for my Bali trip, this was the only one that worked out. Because in my first day, I went to see a couple of co-working places. I've seen, I think it was called Konko. And then I went to Dojo, which was one of the most famous co-working spots in Bali. It's in Echo Beach if you want to Google it. It's really good, but it's very crowded, so I decided that I'll try the third one. The third one was the one I stayed for more than 3 months at. It's called Tropical Nomad. It was a semi-open co-working space, which means that you have the outside area and you also have the inside. I just fell in love straight away. I met a few people at the reception that were also planning to get into the co-working place. We started talking, and with those two guys, if you're watching, they became my best friends in Bali, and it was a bond that will last forever. I mean, we still talk, and with the other guys that we met in the next days, we also became best friends. We had projects together, and we were going out together and working together. So it was a really interesting experience. So I joined that co-working place. I paid the monthly price of about 1.5 million rupias, which is about 110 USD. And I started looking for contracts. At the time, I was working with startups and mainly fintech unicorns from UK to help them redesign their business strategy. I was also doing business planning for early stage startups, and I was also working in the technology side of the user experience and business analysis. Since all of this work could be done remotely, I didn't really have much trouble finding new contracts and clients. Of course, sometimes it's harder because there might not be anything on the job market, but overall it was pretty well. You had time to work with the clients in the morning mainly, and afternoon if you're managing your time zone correctly. And then you go to do some other Bali activities such as surfing, eating various new food, and going out for the parties there. By the way, I didn't tell you that I stayed in Canggu, which is in the west side of Bali, not too far from Denpasar, which is the capital, maybe about 40 minutes drive by Gojek. This is the new area. It's more of a expat place where most of the people who reside there are the ones who come to Bali with one-way ticket, such as me. So most of the people that you'll meet there, they are either developers, consultants, coders, Instagrammers, social media people, and copywriters. So everyone has a really interesting life story, and you'll get some connections that might help you in your own business. I chose Canggu specifically because I knew that it's the expat community there. The other places, which is the next one, is Seminyak and Kuta. They are more touristy, so I didn't really want to be there. I wanted to avoid the tourists as much as possible. No offense to any tourists. But Canggu was more of a place where I could both work, meet the locals, and also enjoy the seaside. The second place that I was considering was Ubud, which is north of Denpasar, about 30-40 minutes ride, I guess. And that place is just the mecca for vegans and for the ones who are involved into yoga activities. So Ubud, although a brilliant place and I was going there probably every single week, was not the place for me because I wanted to enjoy the sunshine. However, if you still plan to go to Ubud, they have co-working places there. The main one is called Ubud, and the prices are more or less the same as Canggu. Since many asked how my typical day was in Bali, I really want to share, and I guess those who were in Bali or are now in Bali, they could probably relate to this. I was waking up pretty early actually, which was surprising because I'm an all, so I'm working late, but I'm also sleeping a lot. So in Europe, I was waking up at 9 or 10, going to the office at 10:30, something like that. Yeah, don't judge me for that. But anyway, my typical day in Bali was waking up at around 7:30, maybe earlier. I was taking my surfboard, going to the beach. If it was good weather, I was catching some waves. By the way, you learn surfing really fast. The rental of the boards is literally like $2-3 per day. So it's really affordable, really easy, and there are instructors anywhere you go. After that, I usually took my laptop with me. I was going to a brunch place or breakfast place. And trust me, you will find some of the most amazing restaurants serving breakfast in Bali, in Canggu. Most of them are Australian styled. They have a lot of really healthy food like avocado toasts and quinoa, and you have all kinds of smoothie bowls. So you'll really have some of the most awesome breakfast in your life in Canggu. And yeah, after having breakfast, I was going to the co-working place. I was staying there for a few hours. Maybe had lunch somewhere outside or went to see some rice fields. Or I was having the lunch in the co-working place. They also have a small cafe, so you can have some coffee or snacks. It's a pretty cool place to be, so and also collaborate with your peers or friends. After lunch, I was staying at the co-working place again, working on a couple of new contracts or trying to get some new contracts. And in the evening, we were usually going to a couple of lounge bars. There are thousands by the beach. It starts from Canggu. You can go right for a couple of them. There is La Brisa, which is one of my favorites. On the left side, you have Fins, which is probably one of the most famous in the area, in Berava area. Berava is full of other really pretty and cool restaurants, so you may want to check that out. And on more of the left side towards Kuta and Seminyak, you have more of the lounge bars with like a club kind of atmosphere. So if you're into that, you can go to that place. But the best thing out of everything is going around 6:10, 6:15 to watch the sunset. This was one of the best moments in Bali, and the sunsets in Bali are simply amazing. You can check them out in my Instagram. It's at algorithm, so I'll put the link in the description. You can check it out. I've got more than 100 videos of the sunsets in Bali. So yeah, that's how my typical day looked like in Bali. But again, I told you, plans never work in Bali, so this only was typical for the first 2 weeks until I started looking into some other things. I wanted to either start my own tech startup or get involved into some local businesses. And I was always very, very interested about real estate, and I did some real estate back in Europe. And I started looking at the villas there. There were loads of opportunities. I realized it straight away, and I started developing a business model for my nowadays current company that I run in Bali, and I actually run it remotely. But again, if you're interested to know more about that, I'll probably do another video, because that's quite a long story, and I'll tell you more about how I started my business in Bali, how it's run nowadays, and how I can do it remotely now, being anywhere in the world and traveling the world. Briefly, I run a property management company in Bali, and I started off actually when I met one of my current partners, who I can't disclose his name and his business, but he runs a couple of hotels and villas in the area. So one day we met, and I told him about my skills and my interests, and next day we were signing a contract. So currently we manage over 40 rooms in the Canggu area. And again, all the description and all the links are in my Instagram. If you go there, you'll be able to see it all. So currently I manage over 40 villas and apartments in Canggu area. And you'll be able to find out more if you go to my Instagram. There is also the Instagram of my brand, which is called Villas. And you'll be even able to book one of them. And of course, if you need a place or an apartment for a longer stay, you can also DM me on Instagram, and I might try to offer you a better rate. Overall, starting a business in Bali was pretty difficult. Again, I'll tell more about this in a new video if you are gonna request for it. I would really like to share the experience because it was something completely new. The country is very corrupt. The people are very kind, but very lazy at the same time. So being a manager sometimes is very tricky in Bali. But after a couple of months of real hard work, marketing and planning the finances, we were running our first villa. It was booked in less than 3 hours for the first week, so it was a success right away. I was really happy with that, and we started enlarging the company. We even built 10 new apartments, and they were already live in February. And yeah, of course, nowadays we have coronavirus, and this is impacting a bit the business, but overall it's pretty good because I've automated all my business, and I could work from anywhere in the world. So anyway, I'll tell you more about that in the next video, but now I'll wrap up. My experience in Bali was one of the most amazing things that happened to in my life. I met thousands of new interesting people. I learned to ride a mechanic motorbike. I told you at the start that I started with a Vario 125, I think, cc, and then grew to like 300 cc, riding a fast bike to the mountains. I went to some really remote locations in the west of Bali, and I really suggest you to go to them. You can find some of them in the Bali forums, but you could also DM me and I'll be more than happy to share that. The Bali experience also helped me to realize that money is not the most important thing, although sometimes I still disagree with myself because I'm still getting projects and contracts that are mainly money motivated, but yeah, you can't say no to some of the opportunities. Although I realize that this is not the most important thing, the kindness of the Balinese people really impressed me, and I would really like the whole world to be the same. It's not always possible, but that's a really good place to start with. If you're planning to travel to Bali, you'll definitely see that. Again, Bali is a very cheap place, so it's very affordable for anyone who wants to either make a big move in their lives or make a change. For anyone who wants to start something new or try out a business. For anyone who wants to enjoy the sunshine and get some good food on the beach, but also have some really cool meditation sessions. That's definitely the place to go, and I've been to most of the Southeast Asian countries, and Bali is definitely different to Vietnam, Thailand, which is super populated at the moment. They have loads of tourists. Bali is super popular as well, but there are areas where you can feel that you're actually on the island, and if you go more to the north of Bali, you'll see the actual Balinese life. On the other side, there are of course a lot of other things that came to my mind. Bali is probably not the place for long-term staying, because at the end of the day you get bored of it. There is not much infrastructure, there are not too many shops that you can go to, there is no Apple Store, the connectivity, although is pretty good for nomads, it's still an island and you experience some internet issues. If you work in the hotel hospitality industry, you'll see that there are a lot of problems with that. There is always electricity going off, and sometimes you have earthquakes. Thanks God we didn't have any tsunamis, but anything could happen in Bali. You cannot plan anything, and if you're going there, just go with the flow. And finally, getting out of the comfort zone. This was one of the main things that I was looking for, and going to a new country without any friends or any people that you know there, it's really triggering that, and you feel the discomfort, but with every discomfort you will see new things, and you will feel alive. So absolutely do that, even if you're not gonna plan to stay there longer, or if it doesn't really fit into your current plans. If you're looking for a change, this is probably gonna give you anything you want. Thanks for watching, guys. I really hope this video was interesting to you. If you have any kind of questions or you want me to suggest some places or anything else, if you're planning your trip to Bali, just leave your comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, whatever any other YouTuber is saying, but still this is gonna help me to get more motivated and post more videos. And if you have any ideas or suggestions about the next video, just drop me a text or a comment below. And yeah, I'll be more than happy to share, because there's so much that I want to share with you, and this is the best platform and the best time to do that.